chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the king of Judah, became king. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and for 16 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of Jehovah his God, like David his forefather. And he went walking in the way of the kings of Israel, and even his own son he made pass through the fire, according to the detestable things of the nations, whom Jehovah drove out because of the sons of Israel. And he was sacrificing and making sacrificial smoke on the high places, and upon the hills, and under every luxuriant tree. It was then that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel, proceeded to come up against Jerusalem in war, and laid siege against Ahaz, but they were not able to fight. At that time Rezin, the king of Syria, restored Elath to Edom, after which he cleared out the Jews from Elath. And the Edomites, for their part, entered Elath, and kept dwelling there down to this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and save me out of the palm of the king of Syria, and out of the palm of the king of Israel, who are rising up against me. Accordingly Ahaz took the silver and the gold that was to be found at the house of Jehovah, and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent the king of Assyria a bribe. At that the king of Assyria listened to him, and the king of Assyria went up to Damascus, and captured it, and led its people into exile at Kir, and Rezin he put to death. Then King Ahaz went to meet Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, at Damascus, and he got to see the altar that was in Damascus. So King Ahaz sent Urijah the priest the design of the altar and its pattern, as respects all its workmanship. And Urijah the priest proceeded to build the altar. According to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus was the way that Urijah the priest made it, pending the time that King Ahaz came from Damascus. When the king came from Damascus, the king got to see the altar, and the king began to go near to the altar and make offerings upon it. And he continued to make his burnt offering and his grain offering smoke, and to pour out his drink offering, and to sprinkle blood of the communion sacrifices that were his upon the altar. And the copper altar that was before Jehovah he now brought near from in front of the house, from between his altar and the house of Jehovah, and put it at the north side of his altar. And King Ahaz found to command him, even Urijah the priest, saying, The great altar make the burnt offering of the morning smoke, also the grain offering of the evening, and the burnt offering of the king, and his grain offering, and the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offerings. And all the blood of burnt offering, and all the blood of a sacrifice, you should sprinkle upon it. As for the copper altar, it will become something for me to take under consideration. And Urijah the priest went doing according to all that King Ahaz had commanded. Furthermore, King Ahaz cut the side walls of the carriages in pieces, and removed from off them the basins, and the sea he took down off the copper bowls that were underneath it, and then put it on a stone pavement. And the covered structure for the Sabbath that they had built in the house, and the king's outer entryway, he shifted from the house of Jehovah because of Assyria. As for the rest of the affairs of Ahaz, what he did, are they not written in the book of the affairs of the days of the kings of Judah? Finally Ahaz lay down with his forefathers, and was buried with his forefathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah his son began to reign in place of him.
Chapter 35. And Elihu continued answering and saying, Is this what you have regarded as justice? You have said, My righteousness is more than God's. For you say, Of what use is it to you? What benefit do I have more than by my sinning? I myself shall reply to you, and to your companions with you. Look up to heaven and see, and behold the clouds, that they are indeed higher than you. If you actually sin, what do you accomplish against him? And if your revolts actually increase, what do you do to him? If you are really in the right, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your own hand? Your wickedness may be against a man like you, and your righteousness to a son of earthling man. Because of the multitude of oppressions they keep calling for aid. They keep crying for help because of the arm of the great ones. And yet no one has said, where is God, my grand maker, the one giving melodies in the night? He is the one teaching us more than the beasts of the earth. And he makes wiser than even the flying creatures of the heavens. There they keep crying out, but he does not answer, because of the pride of the bad ones. Only the untruth God does not hear, and the Almighty himself does not behold it. How much less then when you say you do not behold him? The legal case is before him, and so you should wait anxiously for him. And now because his anger had not called for an accounting, he has also not taken note of the extreme rashness. And Job himself opens his mouth wide simply for nothing. Without knowledge he multiplies mere words.
Chapter 9. For its part, then, the covenant used to have ordinance sacred service, and its mundane holy place. For there was constructed a tent compartment, in which were the lampstand and also the table, display of the loaves, and it is called the holy place. But behind the second curtain was a tent compartment called the most holy. This had a golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid all around with gold, in which were the golden jar having the manna, and the rod of Aaron that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. But up above it were the glorious cherubs overshadowing the propitiatory cover. But now is not the time to speak in detail concerning these things. After these things constructed this way, the priests enter the first tent compartment at all times to perform the sacred services. But into the second compartment the high priest enters once a year, not without blood, which he offers for himself and for the sins of ignorance of the people. Thus the Holy Spirit makes it plain that the way into the holy place had not yet been made manifest while the first tent was standing. This very tent is an illustration for the appointed time that is now here, and in keeping with it both gifts and sacrifices are offered. However, these are not able to make the man doing sacred service perfect as respects his conscience, but had to do only with foods and drinks and various baptisms. They were legal requirements pertaining to the flesh, and were imposed until the appointed time to set things straight. However, when Christ came as a high priest of the good things that have come to pass, through the greater and more perfect tent, not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, he entered not with the blood of goats and of young bulls, but with his own blood, once for all time into the holy place, and obtained an everlasting deliverance for us. For if the blood of goats and of bulls and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkled on those who have been defiled, sanctifies to the extent of cleanness of the flesh, how much more will the blood of the Christ, who through an everlasting Spirit offered himself without blemish to God, cleanse our consciences from dead works, that we may render sacred service to the living God? So that is why he is a mediator of a new covenant, in order that, because a death has occurred for their release by ransom from the transgressions under the former covenant, the ones who have been called might receive the promise of the everlasting inheritance. For where there is a covenant, the death of the human covenanter needs to be furnished. For a covenant is valid over dead victims, since it is not in force at any time while the human covenanter is living. Consequently, neither was the former covenant inaugurated without blood. For when every commandment according to the law had been spoken by Moses to all the people, he took the blood of the young bulls and of the goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled the book itself and all the people, saying, "This is the blood of the covenant that God has laid as a charge on you." And he sprinkled the tent, and and all the vessels of the public service likewise with the blood. Yes, nearly all things are cleansed with blood according to the law, and unless blood is poured out, no forgiveness takes place. Therefore it was necessary that the typical representations of the things in the heavens should be cleansed by these means, but the heavenly things themselves with sacrifices that are better than such sacrifices. For Christ entered, not into a holy place made with hands, which is a copy of the reality, but into heaven itself, now to appear before the person of God for us. Neither is it in order that he should offer himself often, as indeed the high priest enters into the holy place from year to year, with blood not his own. Otherwise, he would have to suffer often from the founding of the world. But now he has manifested himself once for all time, at the conclusion of the systems of things, to put sin away through the sacrifice of himself. And as it is reserved for men to die once for all time, but after this a judgment, so also the Christ was offered once for all time to bear the sins of many. And the second time that he appears, it will be apart from sin, and to those earnestly looking for him for their salvation.
To the Philippians, chapter 1. Paul and Timothy, slaves of Christ Jesus, to all the holy ones in union with Christ Jesus, who are in Philippi, along with overseers and ministerial servants. May you have undeserved kindness and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God always upon every remembrance of you, in every supplication of mine for you, as I offer my supplication with joy, because of the contribution you have made to the good news from the first day until this moment. For I am confident of this very thing, that he who started a good work in you will carry it to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. It is altogether right for me to think this regarding all of you, on account of my having you in my heart, all of you being sharers with me in the undeserved kindness, both in my prison bonds and in the defending and legally establishing of the good news. For God is my witness of how I am yearning for all of you in such tender affection as Christ Jesus has. And this is what I continue praying, that your love may abound yet more and more with accurate knowledge and full discernment, that you may make sure of the more important things, so that you may be flawless and not be stumbling others up to the day of Christ, and may be filled with righteous fruit, which is through Jesus Christ, to God's glory and praise. Now I desire you to know, brothers, that my affairs have turned out for the advancement of the good news rather than otherwise, so that bonds have become public knowledge in association with Christ among all the Praetorian Guard and all the rest. And most of the brothers in the Lord, feeling confidence by reason of my prison bonds, are showing all the more courage to speak the word of God fearlessly. True, some are preaching the Christ through envy and rivalry, but as also through goodwill. The latter are publicizing the Christ out of love, for they know I am set here for the defense of the good news. But the former do it out of contentiousness, not with a pure motive, for they are supposing to stir up tribulation for me in my prison bonds. What then? Nothing, except that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is being publicized, and in this I rejoice. In fact, I will also keep on rejoicing, for I know this will result in my salvation through your supplication and a supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, in harmony with my eager expectation and hope, that I shall not be ashamed in any respect, but that in all freeness of speech Christ will, as always before, so now, be magnified by means of my body, whether through life or through death. For in my case, to live is Christ, and to die gain. This is a fruitage of my work, and yet which thing to select I do not. But what I do desire is the releasing and the being with Christ, for this, to be sure, is far better. However, for me to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. So, being confident of this, I know I shall remain and shall abide with all of you for your advancement and the joy that belongs to your faith, so that your exaltation may overflow in Christ Jesus by reason of me through my presence again with you. Only behave in a manner worthy of the good news about the Christ, in order that, whether I come and see you or be absent, I may hear about the things which concern you, that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one soul striving side by side for the faith of the good news, and in no respect being frightened by your opponents. This very thing is a proof of destruction for them, but of salvation for you. And this indication is from God, because to you the privilege was given in behalf of Christ, not only to put your faith in him, but also to suffer in his behalf. For you have the same struggle as you saw in my case, and as you now hear about in my case. Chapter 20. Now Abraham moved camp from there to the land of the Negeb, and took up dwelling between Kadesh and Shur, and residing as an alien at Gerar. And Abraham related concerning Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." With that, Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. Afterward God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, "Here you are as good as dead, because of the woman whom you have taken, since she is owned by another owner as his wife." However, Abimelech had not gone near her. Hence he said, "Jehovah, will you kill a nation that is really righteous? Did not he say to me, 'She is my sister'? And did not she too say, 'He is my brother'? In the honesty of my heart and with innocency of my hands I have done this." At that the true God said to him in the dream, "I too have known that in the honesty of your heart you have done this, and I was also holding you back from sinning against me. That is why I did not allow you to touch her. But now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will make supplication for you, so keep living. But if you are not returning her, know that you will positively die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech got up early in the morning, and proceeded to call all his servants, and to speak of all these things in their ears. And the men got very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And what sin have I committed against you, in that you have brought upon me and my great sin? Deeds that should not have been done you have done in connection with me." And Abimelech went on to say to Abraham, "What did you have in view in that you have done this thing?" To this Abraham said, "It was because I said to myself, 'Doubtless there is no fear of God in this place, and they will certainly kill me because of my wife. And besides, she is truly my sister, the daughter of my father, only not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came about that when God caused me to wander from the house of my father, then I said to her, This is your loving kindness which you may exercise to me. At every place where we shall come, say of me, He is my brother." Following that, Abimelech took sheep and cattle, and men servants and maid servants, and gave them to Abraham, and returned him Sarah his wife. Further Abimelech said, "Here my land is available to you. Dwell where it is good in your eyes." And to Sarah he said, "Here I do give 1,000 silver pieces of money to your brother. Here it is for you a covering of the eyes to all who are with you, and before everybody, and you are cleared of reproach." And Abraham began to make supplication to the true God. And God proceeded to heal Abimelech, and his wife, and his slave girls, and they began bearing children. For Jehovah had tightly shut up every one of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Chapter 7. Now it came out in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, the king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem for war against it. And he proved unable to war against it. And a report was made to the house of David, saying, "Syria has leaned on Ephraim." And his heart and the heart of his people began to quiver, like the quivering of the trees of the forest. Laundryman's field. Him, watch yourself and keep undisturbed. Do not be afraid, and do not let your heart itself be timid, because of the two tail ends of these smoking logs, because of the hot anger of Rezin and Syria, and the son of Remaliah, for the reason that Syria with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah has advised what is bad against you, saying, "Let us go up against Judah and tear it apart, and by breakthroughs take it for ourselves, and let us make another king reign inside it, the son of Tabiel." is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. It will not stand, neither will it take place. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, and within just 65 years Ephraim will be shattered to pieces, so as not to be a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is the son of Remaliah. Unless you people have faith, you will in that case not be of long duration. And Jehovah went on speaking some more to Ahaz, saying, Ask for yourself a son from Jehovah your God, making it as deep as Sheol, or making it high as the upper regions. But Ahaz said, I shall not ask, neither shall I put Jehovah to the test. And he proceeded to say, Listen please, O house of David. Is it such a little thing for you to tire out men, that you should also tire out my God? Therefore Jehovah himself will give you men a sign. Look, the maiden herself will become pregnant, and she is giving birth to a son, and she will certainly call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey he will eat by the time that he knows how to reject the bad and choose the good. For before the boy will know how to reject the bad and choose the good, the ground of whose 2 kings you are feeling a sickening dread will be left entirely. Jehovah will bring against you and against your people and against the house of your father days such as have not come since the day of Ephraim's turning away from alongside Judah, namely the king of Assyria. And it must occur in that day that Jehovah will whistle for the flies at the extremity of the Nile canals of Egypt, and for the are in the land of Assyria. And they will certainly come in and settle down, all of them, on precipitous torrent valleys, and upon the clefts of the crags, and upon all the thorn thickets, and upon all the watering places. In day, by means of a hired razor in the region of the river, even by me, the king of Assyria, Jehovah will shave the head and the hair of the feet, and it will sweep away even the beard itself. And it must occur in that day that an individual will preserve alive a young cow of the herd and 2 sheep. And it must occur that due to the abundance of the producing of milk, he will eat butter, because butter and honey are what everyone left remaining in the midst of the land will eat. And it must occur in the day that every place where there used to be 1,000 vines, worth 1,000 pieces of silver, will come to be, for the thorn bushes and for the weeds it will come to be. With arrows and the bow he will come there, because all the land will become mere thorn bushes and weeds. And all the mountains that you see cleared of some plants with a hoe, you will not come there for fear of thorn bushes and weeds. And it will certainly become a place setting bulls loose, and a trampling ground of sheep. Chapter 10. And Rehoboam proceeded to go to Shechem, for it was to Shechem that all the Israelites came him king. And it came about that as soon as Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard of it while he was yet in Egypt, because he had run away on account of Solomon the king, Jeroboam immediately came back from Egypt. So they sent and told him, and Jeroboam and all Israel and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father for his part made our yoke hard, and now make the hard service of your father, a heavy yoke that he put upon us, lighter, and we shall serve you. At this he said to them, Let there be yet 3 days, then return to me. So the people went away. And King Rehoboam began to take counsel with the men continually attending upon Saul his father, while he continued alive, saying, How are you advising to reply to people? Accordingly they spoke to him, saying, If you would be yourself good to this people, and actually be pleasing to them, and indeed speak good words to them, they also will certainly become your servants always. However, he left the counsel of the older men with which they advised him, and he began to take counsel with the men that had grown up with him, who were the ones attending upon him. And he went on to say to them, What is it that you are offering in counsel, that we may reply to this people who have spoken to me, saying, Make the yoke that your father put upon us lighter? In turn, the young men that had grown up with him spoke with him, saying, This is what you should say to the people who have spoken to you, saying, Your father for his part made our yoke heavy, but as for you, make it lighter upon us. This is what you should say to them. My own little finger will certainly be thicker than my father's hips. And now my father for his part loaded upon you a heavy yoke, but I for mine will add to your yoke. My father for his part chastised you with whips, but I for my part with scourges. And Jeroboam and all the people proceeded to come to Rehoboam on the third day, just as the king had spoken, saying, Return to me on the third day. And the king began to answer them harshly. Thus King Rehoboam left the counsel of the older men, and he went on to speak to them according to the counsel of the young men, saying, I shall make your yoke heavier, and I for my part shall add to it. My father for his part chastised you with whips, but I for my part with scourges. And the king did not listen to the people, for it proved to be a turn of affairs from the true God, in order that Jehovah might carry out his word that he had spoken by means of Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. As for Israel, because the king did not listen to them, the people now replied to the king, saying, What share do we have in David? And there is no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Each one to your gods, O Israel. Now see to your own house, O David. With that, all Israel began to go to its tents. As for the sons of Israel that were dwelling in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam continued to reign over them. Subsequently, King Rehoboam sent Hadoram, who was over those conscripted for forced labor. But the sons of Israel pelted him with stones, so that he died. And King Rehoboam himself managed to get up into his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. And the Israelites kept up their revolt against the house of David down to this day.
Chapter 4. And it came about that as soon as the whole nation had completed passing over the Jordan, Jehovah proceeded to say to Joshua, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from each tribe, and command them, saying, Take up for yourselves from the very middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood motionless, 12 stones, and you must carry them over with you and deposit them in the lodging place in which you will lodge tonight. So Joshua called 12 men, whom he had appointed from the sons of Israel, 1 man from each tribe. And Joshua went on to say to them, Pass ahead of the ark of Jehovah your God to the middle of the Jordan, and lift up for yourselves each one a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel, in order that this may serve as a sign in your midst. In case your sons should ask in time to come, saying, Why do you have these stones? You must also say to them, Because the waters of the Jordan were cut off from before the ark of Jehovah's covenant. When it passed through the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones must serve as a memorial to the sons of Israel, to time indefinite. Accordingly, the sons of Israel did so, just as Joshua had commanded. And they took up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, just as Jehovah had stated to Joshua, to correspond with the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel. And they went taking them over with them to the lodging place, and depositing them there. There were also 12 stones that Joshua set up in the middle of the Jordan, on the standing place of the feet of the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and they continue there until this day. And the priests carrying the ark were standing in the middle of the Jordan until the whole matter had been completed that Jehovah had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. All the while the people hurried up and passed over. And it came about that as soon as all the people had completed passing over, then the ark of Jehovah passed over, and the priests
through the tribe to pagan formations of Israel, just as Moses had stated to them. About 40,000 equipped for the army passed over before Jehovah for the war onto the desert plains of Jericho. On that day Jehovah made Joshua great in the eyes of all Israel, and they began to fear him just as they had feared Moses all the days of his life. Then Jehovah said to Joshua, "Command the priests carrying the ark of the testimony that they go up out of the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, saying, "Go up out of the Jordan." And it came about that when the priests carrying the ark of the covenant of Jehovah came up out of the middle of the Jordan, and the soles of the feet of the priests were drawn out onto the dry ground, then the waters of the Jordan began returning to their place, and went overflowing all its banks as formerly. And the people came out of the Jordan on the 10th of the first month, and took up camping at Gilgal, on the eastern border of Jericho. As for the 12 stones that they had taken out of the Jordan, Joshua set these up at Gilgal. And he went on to say to the sons of Israel, "When your sons ask their fathers in time to come, saying, 'What do these stones mean?' you must then let your sons know, saying, 'On the dry land it was that Israel passed over this Jordan, when Jehovah your God dried up the waters of the Jordan from before them until they had passed over, just as Jehovah your God had done to the Red Sea, when he dried it up from before us until it passed over, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know Jehovah's hand, that it is strong, in order that you may indeed fear Jehovah your God always.'"
Chapter 14. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Exercise faith in God. Exercise faith also in me. In the house of my Father there are many abodes. Otherwise I would have told you, because I am going my way to prepare a place for you. Also, if I go my way and prepare a place for you, I am coming again, and will receive you home to myself, that where I am, you also may be. And where I am going, you know the way. Thomas said to him, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How do we know the way?" Jesus said to him, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you men had known me, you would have known my Father also. From this moment on, you know him and have seen him." Philip said to him, "Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us." Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you men so long a time, and yet, Philip, you have not come to know me? He that has seen me has seen the Father also. How is it you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in union with the Father, and the Father is in union with me? The things I say to you men, I do not speak of my own originality, but the Father who remains in union with me is doing his works. Believe me that I am in union with the Father, and the Father is in union with me. Otherwise, believe on account of the works themselves. Most truly I say to you, he that exercises faith in me, that one also will do the works that I do, and he will do works greater than these, because I am going my way to the Father. Also, whatever it is that you ask in my name, I will do this, in order that the Father may be glorified in connection with the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, you will observe my commandments. And I will request the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, the Spirit of the truth, which the world cannot receive, because it neither beholds it nor knows it. You know it, because it remains with you and is in you. I shall not leave you bereaved, I am coming to you. A little longer, and the world will behold me no more. But you will behold me, because I live, and you will live. In that day you will know that I am in union with my Father, and you are in union with me, and I am in union with you. He that has my commandments and observes them, that one is he who loves me. In turn, he that loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and will plainly show myself to him. Judas, not Iscariot, said to him, Lord, what has happened that you intend to show yourself plainly to us and not to the world? In answer, Jesus said to him, If anyone loves me, he will observe my word, and my Father will love him, and we shall come to him and make our abode with him. He that does not love me does not observe my words, and the word you are hearing is not mine, but belongs to the Father who sent me. While remaining with you, I have spoken these things to you. But the Helper, the Holy Spirit which the Father will send in my name, that one will teach you all things, and bring back to your minds all the things I told you. I leave you peace. I give you my peace. I do not give it to you the way that the world gives it. Do not let your hearts be troubled, nor let them shrink for fear. You heard that I said to you, I am going away, and I am coming back to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice that I am going my way to the Father, because the Father is greater than I am. So now I have told you before it occurs, in order that when it does occur, you may believe. I shall not speak much with you any more, for the ruler of the world is coming, and he has no hold on me. But in order for the world to know that I love the Father, even as the Father has given me commandment to do, so I am doing. Get up, let us go from here. To the Colossians, chapter 1. Paul, an apostle of Christ Jesus through God's will, and Timothy our brother, to the holy ones and faithful brothers in union with Christ at Colossae. May you have undeserved kindness and peace from God our Father. We thank God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ always when we pray for you, since we heard of your faith in connection with Christ Jesus and the love you have for all the holy ones, because of the hope that is being reserved for you in the heavens. This hope you heard of before by the telling of the truth of that good news which has presented itself to you, even as it is bearing fruit and increasing in all the world, just as it is doing also among you, from the day you heard and accurately knew the undeserved kindness of God in truth. That is what you have learned from Epaphras, our beloved fellow slave, who is a faithful minister of the Christ on our behalf, who also disclosed to us your love in a spiritual way. That is also why we, from the day we heard of it, have not ceased praying for you, and asking that you may be filled with the accurate knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual comprehension, in order to walk worthily of Jehovah to the end of fully pleasing Him, as you go on bearing fruit in every good work, and increasing in the accurate knowledge of God, being made powerful with all power to the extent of His glorious might, so as to endure fully and be long-suffering with joy, thanking the Father who rendered you suitable for your participation in the inheritance of the holy ones in the light. He delivered us from the authority of the darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of the Son of His love, by means of whom we have our release by ransom, the forgiveness of our sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. because by means of him all other things were created in the heavens and upon the earth, the things visible and the things invisible, no matter whether they are thrones or lordships, or governments or authorities. All other things have been created through him and for him. Also, he is before all other things, and by means of him all other things were made to exist. And he is the head of the body, the congregation. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that he might become the one who is first in all things, because God saw all to him,
and through him to reconcile unto himself all other things, by making peace through the blood he shed on the torture stake, no matter whether they are the things upon the earth or the things in the heavens. Indeed, you who once alienated and enemies, because your minds were on the works that were wicked, he now has again reconciled by means of that one's fleshly body through his death, in order to present holy and unblemished and open to no accusation before him, provided, of course, that you continue in the faith, established on the foundation and steadfast, and not being shifted away from the hope of that good news which you heard, and which was preached in all creation that is under heaven. Of this good news, I, Paul, became a minister. I am now rejoicing in my sufferings for you, and I, in my turn, am filling up what is lacking of the tribulations of the Christ in my flesh on behalf of his body, which is the congregation. I became a minister of this congregation in accordance with the stewardship from God, which was given me in your interest, to preach the word of God fully, the sacred secret that was hidden from the past systems of things and from the past generations. But now it has been made manifest to his holy ones, to whom God has been pleased to make known what are the glorious riches of this sacred secret among the nations. It is Christ in union with you, the hope of his glory. He is the one we are publicizing, admonishing every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that we may present every man complete in union with Christ. To this end I am indeed working hard, exerting myself in accordance with the operation of him, and which is at work in me with power.
Chapter 7. My son, keep my sayings, and may you treasure up my own commandments with you. Keep my commandments and continue living, and my law like the pupil of your eyes. Tie them upon your fingers, and write them upon the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and may you call understanding itself kinswoman, to guard you against the woman stranger, against the foreigner who has made her own sayings smooth. For at the window of my house, through my lattice I looked down, that I might peer upon the inexperienced ones. I was interested in discerning among the sons a young man in want of heart, passing along on the street near her corner, and in the way to her house he marches, in the twilight and the evening of the day, at the approach of the night and the gloom. And look, there was a woman to meet him, with the garment of a prostitute, and cunning of heart. She is boisterous and stubborn. In her house her feet do not keep residing. Now she is outdoors, now she is in the public squares, and near every corner she lies in wait. And she has grabbed hold of him and given him a kiss. She has put on a bold face, and she begins to say to him, communion sacrifices were incumbent upon me. Today I have paid my vows. That is why I have come out to meet you, to look for your face, that I may find you. With coverlets I have bedecked my divan, with many colored things, linen of Egypt. I have besprinkled my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Do come, let us drink our fill of love until the morning. Do let us enjoy each other with love expressions. for the husband is not in his house. He is gone traveling on a way of some distance. A bag of money he has taken in his hand. On the day of the full moon, he will come to his house. She has misled him by the abundance of her persuasiveness. By the smoothness of her lips, she seduces him. All of a sudden, he is going after her, like a bull that comes even to the slaughter, and just as if fettered for the discipline of a foolish man, until an arrow cleaves open his liver, just as a bird hastens into the trap, and he has not known that it involves his very soul. And now, O sons, listen to me, and pay attention to the sayings of my mouth. May your heart not turn aside to her ways. Do not wander into her roadways. For many are the ones she has caused to fall down slain, and all those being killed by her are numerous. The ways to Sheol her house is. They are descending to the interior rooms of death. Psalm 33. Cry out joyfully, O you righteous ones, because of Jehovah. On the part of the upright ones, praise is fitting. Give thanks to Jehovah on the harp. On an instrument of 10 strings, make melody to him. Sing to him a new song. Do your best at playing on the strings along with joyful shouting. For Jehovah is upright, and all his work is in faithfulness. He is a lover of righteousness and justice. With the loving kindness of Jehovah, the earth is filled. By the word of Jehovah the heavens themselves were made, and by the spirit of his mouth all their army. He is gathering as by a dam the waters of the sea, putting in storehouses the surging waters. Let all those of the earth be in fear of Jehovah. At him let all the inhabitants of the productive land be frightened. For he himself said, and it came to be. He himself commanded, and it proceeded to stand so. Jehovah himself has broken up the counsel of the nations. He has thwarted the thoughts of the peoples. To time and death, the very counsel of Jehovah will stand. The thoughts of his heart are to one generation after another generation. Happy is the nation whose God is Jehovah, the people whom he has chosen as his inheritance. From the heavens Jehovah has looked. He has seen all the sons of men. From the established place where he dwells, he has gazed at all those dwelling on the earth. He is forming their hearts altogether. He is considering all their works. There is no king save by the abundance of military forces. A mighty man himself is not delivered by the abundance of power. The horse is a deception for salvation, and by the abundance of its vital energy, it does not afford escape. Look, the eye of Jehovah is toward those fearing him, to those waiting for his loving kindness, to deliver their soul from death itself, and to preserve them alive in famine. Our very soul has been in expectation of Jehovah. Our helper and our shield he is. For in him our heart rejoices, for in his holy name we have put our trust. Let your loving kindness, O Jehovah, prove to be upon us, even as we have kept waiting for you.
Chapter 25. Therefore Festus, after entering upon the government of the province, went up 3 days later to Jerusalem from Caesarea. And the chief priests and the principal men of the Jews gave him information against Paul. So they began to entreat him, asking for themselves as a favor against the man, that he would send for him to come to Jerusalem, as they were laying an ambush to do away with him along the road. However, Festus answered that Paul was to be kept in Caesarea, and that he himself was about to depart shortly. Hence, down with me and accuse him, if there is anything out of the way about the man. So when he had spent not more than 8 or 10 days among them, he went down to Caesarea. And the next day he sat down on the judgment seat and commanded Paul to be brought in. When he arrived, the Jews come down from Jerusalem stood round about him, leveling against him many and serious charges, for which they were unable to show evidence. But Paul said in defense, "Neither against the law of the Jews, nor against the temple, nor against Caesar have I committed any sin." Festus, desiring to gain favor with the Jews, said in reply to Paul, "Do you wish to go up to Jerusalem and be judged there before me concerning these things?" But Paul said, "I am standing before the judgment seat of Caesar, where I ought to be judged. I have done no wrong to the Jews, as you also are finding out quite well. If on the one hand I am really a wrongdoer and have committed anything deserving of death, I do not beg off from dying. If, on the other hand, none of those things exists of which these men accuse me, no man can hand me over to them as a favor. I appeal to Caesar." Then Festus, after speaking with the assembly of counselors, replied, "To Caesar you have appealed. To Caesar you shall go." Now when some days had passed, Agrippa the king and Bernice arrived in Caesarea for a visit of courtesy to Festus. So, as they were spending a number of days there, Festus laid before the king the matters respecting Paul, saying, "There is a certain man left prisoner by Felix, and when I was in Jerusalem, the chief priests and the older men of the Jews brought information about him, asking a judgment of condemnation against him. But I replied to them that it is not Roman procedure to hand any man over as a favor before the accused man meets his accusers face to face and gets a chance to speak in his defense concerning the complaint. Therefore, when they got together here, I made no delay, but the next day I sat down on the judgment seat and commanded the man to be brought in. Taking the stand, the accusers produced no charge of the wicked things I had supposed concerning him. They simply had certain disputes with him concerning their own worship of the deity, and concerning a certain Jesus who was dead, but who Paul kept asserting was alive. So, being perplexed as to the dispute over these matters, I proceeded to ask if he would like to go to Jerusalem and there be judged concerning these matters. But when Paul appealed to be kept for the decision by the august one, I commanded him to be kept until I should send him on up to Caesar. Here Agrippa said to Festus, I myself would also like to hear the man. Tomorrow, he said, you shall hear him. Therefore, on the next day, Agrippa and Bernice came with much pompous show and entered into the audience chamber, together with military commanders, as well as men of eminence in the city. And when Festus gave the command, Paul was brought in. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all you men who are present with us, you are beholding this man, concerning whom all the multitude of the Jews together have applied to me both in Jerusalem and here, shouting that he ought not to live any longer. But I perceived he had committed nothing deserving of death. So when this man himself appealed to the august one, I decided to send him. But concerning him, I have nothing certain to write to my Lord. Therefore I brought him forth before you, and especially before you, King Agrippa, in order that after the judicial examination has taken place, I might get something to write. For it seems unreasonable to me to send the prisoner and not also to signify the charges against him.
Chapter 40. The word that occurred to Jeremiah from Jehovah after Nebuzaradan, the chief of the bodyguard, sent him from Ramah, when he took him while he was bound with handcuffs in the midst of all the exiles of Jerusalem and of Judah, who were being taken into exile to Babylon. Then the chief of the bodyguard took Jeremiah and said to him, Jehovah your God himself spoke this calamity against this place, that Jehovah might bring it through and do just as he has spoken, because you people have sinned against Jehovah and have not obeyed his voice, and this thing has happened to you. And now look, I have let you loose today from the handcuffs that are upon your hands. If it is good in your eyes to come with me to Babylon, come, and I shall keep my eye upon you. But if it is bad in your eyes to come with me to Babylon, refrain. See, the entire land is before you. To wherever it is good and right in your eyes to go, go there. And he was yet not one that would return, when Nebuzaradan said, Do return to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, whom the king of Babylon has commissioned over the cities of Judah, and dwell with him in the midst of the people, or to wherever it is right in your eyes to go, go. And the chief of the bodyguard then gave him a food allowance and a present, and let him go. Accordingly, Jeremiah came to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam at Mizpah, and took up dwelling with him in the midst of the people who were left remaining in the land. In time, all the chiefs of the military forces who were in the field, they and their men, got to hear that the king of Babylon had commissioned Gedaliah the son of Ahikam over the land, and that he had commissioned him over the men and women and little children, and some of the lowly people of the land, who had not been taken into exile in Babylon. So they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah, even Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, and Jonathan, the sons of Kareah, and Saiah, the son of Tanhumeth, and the sons of Ephi, the Netophathite, and Jezaniah, the son of the Maacathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, proceeded to swear to them and to their men, saying, Do not be afraid of serving the Chaldeans. Continue dwelling in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well with you. And as for me, gather wine.
And put them in your vessels, and dwell in your cities that you have seized. To all the Jews that were in Moab, and among the sons of Ammon, and in Edom, and those who were in all the other lands, they also heard that the king of Babylon had given a remnant to Judah, and that he had commissioned over them Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan. And all the Jews began to return from all the places to which they had been dispersed, and they kept coming into the land of Judah to Gedaliah at Mizpah. And they went gathering wine and summer fruits in very great quantity. As for Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the chiefs of the military forces who were in the field, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. And they proceeded to say to him,
Do you not at all know that Baalis, the king of the sons of Ammon himself, has sent Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, to strike you to the soul? But Gedaliah the son of Ahikam did not believe them. And Johanan the son of Kareah himself said to Gedaliah in a place of concealment in Mizpah, I want to go now and strike down Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, as no one at all will know. Why should he strike you to the soul? And why must all those of Judah who are being collected together to you be scattered, and the remnant of Judah perish? But Gedaliah the son of Ahikam said to Johanan the son of Kareah, Do not do this thing, for it is a falsehood that you are speaking concerning Ishmael. Chapter 30. And Hezekiah proceeded to send to all Israel and Judah, and even letters he wrote to Ephraim and Manasseh, to come to the house of Jehovah in Jerusalem, to hold the Passover to Jehovah the God of Israel. However, the king and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem resolved to hold the Passover in the 2nd month, for they had not been able to hold it at that time, because not enough priests on the one hand had sanctified themselves, and the people on the other hand had not gathered themselves to Jerusalem. And the thing was right in the eyes of the king and in the eyes of all the congregation. They decided to have the call pass through all Israel from Beersheba to Dan, to come and hold the Passover to Jehovah the God of Israel at Jerusalem. For it was not as a multitude that they had done so according to what is written. Accordingly, the runners with the letters from the hand of the king and of his princes went throughout all Israel and Judah, even according to the commandment of the king, saying, You sons of Israel, return to Jehovah the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may return to the escaped ones that are left of you out of the palm of the kings of Assyria. And do not become like your forefathers and like your brothers that acted unfaithfully toward Jehovah the God of their forefathers, so that he constituted them an object of astonishment, just as you are seen. Now do not stiffen your neck as your forefathers did. Give place to Jehovah and come to his sanctuary that he has sanctified to time indefinite, and serve Jehovah your God, that his burning anger may turn back from you. For when you return to Jehovah, your brothers and your sons will be objects of mercy before those holding them captive, and be allowed to return to this land. For Jehovah your God is gracious and merciful, and he will not turn away the face from you if you return to him. So the runners continued on, passing along from city to city throughout the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, even to Zebulun. But they were continually speaking in mockery of them and deriding them. Only individuals from Asher and Manasseh and from Zebulun humbled themselves so that they came to Jerusalem. The hand of the true God proved to be also in Judah, to give them one heart to perform the commandment of the king and the princes in the matter of Jehovah. And they proceeded to gather themselves together at Jerusalem, a numerous people, to hold the festival of the unfermented cakes in the 2nd month, a congregation very multitudinous. Then they rose up and removed the altars that were in Jerusalem, and all the incense altars they removed, and then threw them into the torrent valley of Kidron. After that, they slaughtered the Passover victim on the 14th day of the 2nd month, and the priests and the Levites themselves had been humiliated, so that they sanctified themselves and brought burnt offerings to the house of Jehovah. And they kept standing at their place according to their rule, according to the law of Moses, the man of the true God, the priests sprinkling the blood received from the hand of the Levites. For there were many in the congregation that had not sanctified themselves, and the Levites were in charge of slaughtering the Passover victims for all that were not clean, to sanctify them to Jehovah. For there was a great number of the people, many from Ephraim and Manasseh, Issachar and Zebulun, that had not cleansed themselves. For they did not eat the Passover according to what is written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, May the good Jehovah himself make allowance for everyone that has prepared his heart to search for the true God Jehovah, the God of his forefathers, though without purification for what is holy. Accordingly Jehovah listened to Hezekiah and healed the people. So the sons of Israel that were found in Jerusalem held the festival of the unfermented cakes 7 days with great rejoicing, and the Levites and the priests were offering praise to Jehovah day by day with loud instruments, even to Jehovah. Moreover, Hezekiah spoke to the heart of all the Levites who were acting with fine discretion toward Jehovah, And they proceeded to eat the appointed feast for 7 days, sacrificing communion sacrifices and making confession to Jehovah, the God of their forefathers. Then the host with
10,000 sheep, and priests kept sanctifying themselves in great number. And all the congregation of Judah, and the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that came from Israel, and the alien residents that came from the land of Israel, and those dwelling in Judah, continued rejoicing. And there came to be great rejoicing in Jerusalem, for from the days of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel, there was none like this in Jerusalem. Finally, the priests, the Levites, stood up and blessed the people, and a hearing was granted to their voice, so that their prayer came to his holy dwelling, the heavens. Chapter 10. My soul certainly feels a loathing toward my life. I will give vent to my concern about myself. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I shall say to God, do not pronounce me wicked. Cause me to know why it is that you are contending with me. Is it good for you that you should do wrong, that you should reject the product of the hard work of your hands, and that upon the counsel of wicked ones you should only beam? Do you have eyes of flesh, or is it as a mortal man sees that you see? Are your days like the days of mortal man, or your years just like the days of an able-bodied man, that you should try to find my error, and for my sin you should keep looking? This in spite of your own knowledge that I am not in the wrong, and there is no one delivering out of your own hand? Your own hands have shaped me so that they made me in entirety round about, and yet you would swallow me up. Remember, please, that out of clay you have made me, and to dust you will make me return. Did you not proceed to pour me out as milk itself, and like cheese to curdle me? With skin and flesh you proceeded to clothe me, and with bones and sinews to weave me together. Life and loving kindness you have worked with me, and your own care has guarded my spirit. And these things you have concealed in your heart. I well know that these things are with you. If I have sinned, and you have kept watching me, and of my error you do not hold me innocent, if I am actually in the wrong, too bad for me. And if I am actually in the right, I may not raise my head, glutted with dishonor, and saturated with affliction. And if it acts haughtily, like a young lion you will hunt for me, and you will again show yourself marvelous in my case. You will bring forth new witnesses of yours in front of me, and you will make your vexation with me greater. Hardship after hardship is with me. So why from a womb did you bring me out? Could I have expired, that not even an eye could see me? There, as though I had not come to be, I should have become. From the belly to the burial place I should have been brought. Are not my days few? Let him leave off. Let him turn his gaze from me, that I may brighten up a little before I go away. And I shall not come back to the land of darkness and deep shadow, to the land of obscurity like gloom, of deep shadow and disorder, where it beams no more than gloom does.
Chapter 23. Then the king sent, and they gathered together to him all the older men of Judah and Jerusalem. After that the king went up to the house of Jehovah, and also all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and also the priests and the prophets and all the people from small to great. And he began to read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of Jehovah. And the king kept standing by the pillar, and now concluded the covenant before Jehovah, to walk after Jehovah, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all the heart and with all the soul, by carrying out the words of this covenant that were written in this book. Accordingly, all the people took their stand in the covenant. And the king went on to command Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second rank, and the doorkeepers, to bring out from the temple of Jehovah all the utensils made for Baal, and for the sacred pole, and for all the army of the heavens. Then he burned them outside Jerusalem on the terraces of Kidron, and he brought the dust of them to Bethel. And he put out of business the foreign god priests, whom the kings of Judah had put in, that they might make sacrificial smoke on the high places in the cities of Judah and the surroundings of Jerusalem. And also those make sacrificial smoke to Baal, to the sun and to the moon, and to the constellations of the zodiac, and to all the army of the heavens. Furthermore, he brought out a sacred pole from the house of Jehovah to the outskirts of Jerusalem, to the torrent valley of Kidron, and burned it in the torrent valley of Kidron, and ground it to dust, and cast its dust upon the burial place of the sons of the people. Further, he pulled down the houses of the male temple prostitutes that were in the house of Jehovah, where the women were weaving tent shrines for the sacred pole. Then he brought all the priests from the cities of Judah, that he might make unfit for worship the high places where the priests had made sacrificial smoke, from Geba as far as Beersheba. And he pulled down the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the chief of the city, which was at the left as a person came into the gate of the city. Only the priests of the high places would not come up to the altar of Jehovah in Jerusalem, but they ate unfermented cakes in among their brothers. And he made unfit for worship Tophet, which is in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, that no one might make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Molech. Further, he caused the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun to cease from entering the house of Jehovah by the dining room of Nathan-Melech, the court official, which was in the porticos, and the chariots of the sun he burned in the fire. And the altars that were upon the roof of the roof chamber of Ahaz that the kings of Judah had made, and the altars that Manasseh had made in 2 courtyards of the house of Jehovah, the king pulled down, after he crushed them there, and he cast their dust into the torrent valley of Kidron. And the high places that were in front of Jerusalem, that were to the right of the Mount of Ruination, that Solomon the king of Israel had built to Ashtoreth, the disgusting thing of the Sidonians, and to Chemosh, the disgusting thing of Moab, and to Milcom, the detestable thing of the sons of Ammon, the king made unfit for worship. And he broke the sacred pillars to pieces, and went on to cut down the sacred poles, and to fill their places with human bones. And also the altar that was in Bethel, the high place that Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who caused Israel's sin, had made, even that altar and the high place he pulled down. Then he burned the high place, he ground it to dust, and burned the sacred pole. When Josiah turned, he got to see the burial places that were there in the mountain. So he sent and took the bones from the burial places, and burned them upon the altar, that he might make it unfit for worship, according to Jehovah's word that the man of the true God had proclaimed, who proclaimed these things. Then he said, "What is the gravestone over there that I am seeing?" At this the men of the city said to him, "It is the burial place of the man of the true God that came from Judah, and proceeded to proclaim these things that you have done against the altar of Bethel." So he said, "Let him rest. Do not let anyone disturb his bones." Consequently, they let his bones alone, along with the bones of the prophet that had come from Samaria. And also all the houses of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria that the kings of Israel had built to cause offense, Josiah removed, and he went on to do to them according to all the doings that he had done at Bethel. Accordingly, he sacrificed all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned human bones upon them. After that he returned to Jerusalem. The king now commanded all the people, saying, "Hold a Passover to Jehovah your God, according to what is written in this book of the covenant. For no Passover like this had been held from the days of the judges that had judged Israel, nor all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was held to Jehovah in Jerusalem. And also the spirit mediums and the professional foretellers of events, and the teraphim and the dungy idols, and all the disgusting things that had appeared in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, Josiah cleared out, in order that he might actually carry out the words of the law that were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest had found at the house of Jehovah. And like him, there did not prove to be a king prior to him who returned to Jehovah with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his vital force, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him has there risen up one like him. Nevertheless, Jehovah did not turn back from the great burning of his anger, with which his anger burned against Judah over all the offensive things with which Manasseh had made them offend. But Jehovah said, Judah too I shall remove from my sight, just as I have removed Israel. And I shall certainly reject this city that I have chosen, even Jerusalem, and the house of which I have said, my name will continue there. As for the rest of the affairs of Josiah, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the affairs of the days of the kings of Judah? In his days Pharaoh Necho, the king of Egypt, came up to the king of Syria by the river Euphrates, and King Josiah proceeded to go to meet him. But he put him to death at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. So his servants conveyed him dead in a chariot from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his grave. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in place of his father. 23 years old was Jehoahaz when he began to reign, and for 3 months reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Leah. And he began to do what was bad in Jehovah's eyes, according to all that forefathers of his had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, to keep him from reigning in Jerusalem, and imposed a fine upon the land of 100 silver talents and a gold talent. Furthermore, Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. And Jehoahaz he took and then brought to Egypt, where he eventually died. And the silver and the gold Jehoiakim gave to Pharaoh. Only he taxed the land to give the silver at the order of Pharaoh. According to each one's individual tax rate, he exacted the silver and the gold from the people of the land, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. 25 years old was Jehoiakim when he began to reign, and for 11 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebidah, the daughter of Pedaiah from Rumah. And he continued to do what was bad in Jehovah's eyes, according to all that forefathers of his had done.
Chapter 14. Finally Abijah lay down with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa his son began to reign in place of him. In his days the land had no disturbance for 10 years, and Asa proceeded to do what was good and right in the eyes of Jehovah his God. So he removed the foreign altars and the high places, and broke up the sacred pillars, and cut down the sacred poles. Further, he said to Judah to search for Jehovah the God of their forefathers, and do the law and the commandment. Accordingly, he removed from all the cities of Judah the high places and the incense stands, and the kingdom continued without disturbance before him. He went on to build fortified cities in Judah, for the land had no disturbance, and there was no war against him during these years, for Jehovah gave him rest. So he said to Judah, "Let us build these cities and make walls around, and towers, double doors and bars. For us the land is yet available, because we have searched for Jehovah our God. We have searched, and he gives us rest all around." And they went building and proving successful. And Asa came to have a military force bearing the large shield and lance, 300,000 of Judah, and out of Benjamin those bearing the buckler and bending the bow were 280,000. All these were valiant, mighty men. Later Zerah, the Ethiopian, went out against them with a military force of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots, and came as far as Maresha. Then Asa went out against him, and they drew up in battle formation in the valley of Zephathah at Maresha. And Asa began to call to Jehovah his God and say, O Jehovah, as to helping, it does not matter with you whether there are many or those with no power. Help us, O Jehovah our God, for upon you we do lean, and in your name we have come against this crowd. O Jehovah, you are our God. Do not let mortal man return strength against you. At that, Jehovah defeated the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians took to flight. And Asa and the people that with him kept pursuing them as far as Gera, and those of the Ethiopians continued falling down till there was no one alive of them, for they were broken to pieces before Jehovah and before his camp. Afterward, they carried off a very great deal of spoil. Further, they struck all the cities round about Gera, for the dread of Jehovah had come to be upon them, and they went plundering all the cities, for there happened to be much to plunder in them. And even the tents with livestock they struck, so that they took captive flocks in great number and camels, after which they returned to Jerusalem. Chapter 4. That being so, what shall we say about Abraham, our forefather according to the flesh? If, for instance, Abraham were declared righteous as a result of works, he would be found for boasting, but not with God. For what does Scripture say? Abraham exercised faith in Jehovah, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Now to the man that works, the pay is counted not as an undeserved kindness, but as a debt. On the other hand, to the man that does not work, but puts faith in him who declares the ungodly one righteous, his faith is counted as righteousness. Just as David also speaks of the happiness of the man to whom God counts righteousness upon works. Happy are those whose lawless deeds have been pardoned, and whose sins have been covered. Happy is the man whose sin Jehovah will by no means take into account. Does this happiness then come upon circumcised people, or also upon uncircumcised people? For we say, his faith was counted to Abraham as righteousness. Under what circumstances then was it counted? When he was in circumcision or in uncircumcision? Not in circumcision, but in uncircumcision. And he received a sign, namely circumcision, as a seal of the righteousness by the faith he had, while in his uncircumcision to be counted.
And the father of circumcised offspring, not only to those who adhere to circumcision, but also to those who walk orderly in the footsteps of that faith, while in the uncircumcised which our father Abraham had. For it was not through law that Abraham or his seed had the promise that he should be heir of a world, but it was through the righteousness by faith. For if those who adhere to law are heirs, faith has been made useless, and the promise has been abolished. In reality, the law produces wrath, but where there is no law, neither is there any transgression. On this account, it was as a result of faith, that it might be according to undeserved kindness, in order for the promise to be sure to all his seed, not only to that which adheres to the law, but also to that which adheres to the faith of Abraham. He is the father of us all, just as it is written, I have appointed you a father of many nations. This was in the sight of the one in whom he had faith, even of God, who makes the dead alive and calls the things that are not as though they were. Although beyond hope, yet based on hope, he had faith that he might become the father of many nations in accord with what had been said. So your seed will be.
And although he did not grow weak in faith, he considered his own body now already deadened, as he was about 100 years old, also the deadness of the womb of Sarah. But because of the promise, he did not waver in a lack of faith, but became powerful by his faith, giving God glory, and being fully convinced that what he had promised, he was also able to do. Hence it was counted to him as righteousness. That it was counted to him was written, however, not for his sake only, but also for the sake of us, to whom it is destined to be counted, because we believe on him who raised Jesus our Lord up from the dead, of our trespasses, and of declaring us righteous.
Chapter 6. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals. And I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice as of thunder, "Come!" And I saw, and look, a white horse, and the one seated upon it had a bow, and a crown was given him. And he went forth conquering, and to complete his conquest. And when he opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come!" And another came forth, a fiery colored horse, and to the one seated upon it there was granted to take peace away from the earth, so that they should slaughter one another. And a great sword was given him. And when he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, "Come!" And I saw, and look, a black horse, and the one seated upon it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice as if in the midst of the 4 living creatures say, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the olive oil and the wine." And when he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come!" And I saw, and look, a pale horse, and the one seated upon it had the name Death, and Hades was closely following him. And authority was given them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with a long sword, and with food shortage, and with deadly plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. And when he opened the 5th seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those slaughtered because of the word of God, and because of the witness work that they used to have. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "Until when, Sovereign Lord, holy and true, are you refraining from judging and avenging our blood upon those who dwell on the earth?" And a white robe was given to each of them, and they were told a little while longer, until the number was filled also of their fellow slaves, and their brothers, who were about to be killed, as they also had been. And I saw when he opened the 6th seal, and a great earthquake occurred, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the entire moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as when a fig tree shaken by a high wind casts its unripe figs. And the heaven departed as a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and every island were removed places. And the kings of the earth, the top-ranking ones, and the military and the rich and the strong ones, and every slave and every free person hid themselves in the caves and in the rock masses of the mountains. And they keep saying to the mountains and to the rock masses, "Fall over us, and hide us from the face of the one seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Because the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand?" Psalm 92. a melody, a song for the Sabbath day. It is good to give thanks to Jehovah, and to make melody to your name, O Most High, to tell in the morning of your loving kindness, and about your faithfulness during the nights, upon a 10-stringed instrument and upon the lute, by resounding music on the harp. For you have made me rejoice, O Jehovah, because of your activity. Because of the works of your hands, I cry out joyfully. How great your works are, O Jehovah! Very deep your thoughts are. No unreasoning man himself can know them, and no one stupid can understand this. When the wicked ones sprout as the vegetation, and all the practisers of what is hurtful blossom forth, it is that they may be annihilated forever. But you are on high, time definite, O Jehovah. For look, your enemies, O Jehovah, for look, your own enemies will perish. All the practisers of what is hurtful will be separate from one another. But you will exalt my horn like that of a wild bull. I shall moisten myself with fresh oil. And my eye will look on my foes. My ears will hear about the very ones who rise up against me, the evildoers. The righteous himself will blossom forth as a palm tree does. As a cedar in Lebanon does, he will grow big. Those who are planted in the house of Jehovah, in the courtyards of our God, they will blossom forth. They will still keep on thriving during gray-headedness. Fat and fresh they will continue to be, to tell that Jehovah is upright. He is my rock, in whom there is no unrighteousness. Chapter 31. Then Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel, and said to them, 120 years old I am today. I shall no more be allowed to go out and come in. As Jehovah has said to me, you will not cross this Jordan. Jehovah your God is the one crossing before you. He himself will annihilate these nations from before you, and you must drive them away. Joshua is the one crossing before you, just as Jehovah has spoken. And Jehovah will certainly do to them just as he has done to Sihon and to Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land when he annihilated them. And Jehovah has abandoned them to you, and you must do to them according to all the commandment that I have commanded you. Be courageous and strong. Do not be afraid to suffer a shock before them, because Jehovah your God is the one marching with you. He will neither desert you nor leave you entirely. And Moses proceeded to call Joshua and say to him before the eyes of all Israel, be courageous and strong, because you will bring this into the land that Jehovah swore to their forefathers to give to them, and you yourself will give it to them as an inheritance. And Jehovah is the one marching before you. He himself will continue with you. He will neither desert you nor leave you entirely. Do not be afraid or be terrified. Then Moses wrote this law and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, the carriers of the ark of Jehovah's covenant, and to all the older men of Israel. And Moses went on to command them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the appointed time of the year of the release, in the festival of booths, when all Israel comes to see the face of Jehovah your God in the place that he is, you will read this law in all Israel in their hearing. Congregate the people, the men and the women and the little ones and your alien resident who is within your gates, in order that they may listen, and in order that they may learn, as they must fear Jehovah your God, and take care to carry out all the words of this law. And their sons who have not known should listen, and they must learn to fear Jehovah your God all the days that you are living upon the soil to which you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of it. After that Jehovah said to Moses, look, the days have drawn near for you to die. Call Joshua, and station yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may commission him. So Moses and Joshua went and stationed themselves in the tent of meeting. Then Jehovah appeared at the tent in the pillar of cloud, and the pillar of cloud began to stand by the entrance of the tent. Jehovah now said to Moses, look, You are lying down with your forefathers. And this people certainly get up and have moral intercourse with foreign gods of the land to which they are going, in their very midst. And they will certainly forsake me and break my covenant that I have concluded with them. At that my anger will indeed blaze against that day, and I shall certainly forsake them and conceal my consent, and they be bound.
Our midst that these calamities have come upon us. As for me, I shall absolutely conceal my face in that day because of all the badness that they have done, because they have turned to other gods. And now write for yourselves this song, and teach it to the sons of Israel. Place it in there in order that this song may serve as my witness against the sons of Israel. For I shall bring them to the ground that I have sworn unto their forefathers, which flows with milk and honey. And they will certainly eat and be satisfied and turn to other gods. And they will indeed serve them and treat me with disrespect and break my covenant. And it must occur that when many calamities and distresses will come upon them, this song must also answer before them as a witness, because it should not be forgotten out of the mouth of their offspring. For I well know their inclination that they are developing today, before I bring them into the land about which I have sworn. So Moses wrote this song in that day, that he might teach it to the sons of Israel. And he proceeded to commission Joshua the son of Nun, and to say, Be courageous and strong, because you will bring the sons of Israel into the land about which I have sworn to them, and I myself shall continue with you. And it came about that as soon as Moses had finished writing the words of this law in a book until their completion, Moses began to command the Levites, the carriers of the ark of Jehovah's covenant, saying, Taking this book of the law, you must place it at the side of the ark of the covenant of Jehovah your God, and it must be a witness there against you. For I well know your rebelliousness and your stiff neck. If while I am yet alive with you today you have proved rebellious in behavior toward Jehovah, then how much more so after my death? Congregate to me all the older men of your tribes and your officers, and let me speak in their hearing these words, and let me take the heavens and the earth as witnesses against them. For I well know that after my death you will without fail act ruinously, and you will certainly turn aside from the way about which I have commanded you, and calamity will be bound to befall you at the close of the days, because you will do what is bad in the eyes of Jehovah, so as to offend him by the works of your hands. And Moses proceeded to speak in the hearing of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until their completion.
chapter 7. Accordingly, the men of Kiriath-Jearim came and brought the ark of Jehovah up, and took it into the house of Abinadab on the hill. And Eleazar his son was the one whom they sanctified to guard the ark of Jehovah. And it came about that from the day of the ark's dwelling in Kiriath-Jearim, the days kept multiplying, so that they amounted to 20 years. And all the house of Israel went lamenting after Jehovah. And Samuel proceeded to say to all the house of Israel, If it is with all your heart you are returning to Jehovah, put away the foreign gods from your midst, and also the Ashtoreth images, and direct your heart unswervingly to Jehovah, and serve him alone, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. At that the sons of Israel put away the Baals and the Ashtoreth images, and began serving Jehovah alone. Then Samuel said, Collect all Israel together at Mizpah, that I may pray in your behalf to Jehovah. So they were collected together at Mizpah, and they went drawing water and pouring it out before Jehovah, and kept a fast on that day. And they began saying there, We have sinned against Jehovah. And Samuel took up judging the sons of Israel in Mizpah. And the Philistines came to hear that the sons of Israel had collected themselves together at Mizpah, and the Axis lords of the Philistines got on their way up against Israel. When the sons of Israel heard of it, they began to be afraid on account of the Philistines. So the sons of Israel said to Samuel, Do not keep silent for our sakes from calling to Jehovah our God for aid, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines. Then Samuel took a sucking lamb, and offered it up as a burnt offering, a whole offering to Jehovah. And Samuel began calling to Jehovah for aid in behalf of Israel, and Jehovah proceeded to answer him. And it came about that while Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines themselves drew near for battle against Israel. And Jehovah now caused it to thunder with a loud noise on that day against the Philistines, that he might throw them into confusion, and they got defeated before Israel. At that, the men of Israel sallied forth from Mizpah, and went in pursuit of the Philistines, and kept striking them down as far as south of Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone, and set it between Mizpah and Jeshanah, and began to call its name Ebenezer. Accordingly he said, Till now Jehovah has helped us. Thus the Philistines were subdued, and they did not come any more into the territory of Israel. And the hand of Jehovah continued to be against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. And the cities that the Philistines had taken from Israel kept coming back to Israel, from Ekron to Gath, and the territory of them Israel delivered from the hand of the Philistines. And there came to be peace between Israel and the Amorites. And Samuel kept on judging Israel all the days of his life. And he traveled from year to year, and made the circuit of Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel at all these places. Chapter 8.
I feel pity for the crowd, because it is already 3 days that they have remained near me, and they have nothing to eat. And if I should send them off to their homes fasting, they will give out on the road. Indeed, some of them are from far away. But his disciples answered him, From where will anybody here in an isolated place be able to satisfy these people with loaves? Still he went on to ask them, How many loaves have you? They said, 7. And he instructed the crowd to recline on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, gave thanks, broke them, and began to give them to his disciples to serve, and they served them to the crowd. They also had a few little fishes, and having blessed these, he told them also to serve these. Accordingly they ate and were satisfied,
And they took up surpluses of fragments, 7 provision baskets full. Yet there were about 4,000 men. Finally he sent them away. And immediately he boarded the boat with his disciples and came into the parts of Dalmanutha. Here the Pharisees came out and started disputing with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to put him to the test. So he groaned deeply with his spirit and said, "Why does this generation seek a sign? Truly I say, no sign will be given to this generation." With that he left them, got aboard again, and went off to the opposite shore. As it was, they forgot to take loaves along, and except for 1 loaf they had nothing with them in the boat. And he began to order them expressly and say, "Keep your eyes open. Look out for the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod." So they went arguing with one another over the fact that they had no loaves. Noting this, he said to them, "Why do you argue over your having no loaves? Do you not yet perceive and get the meaning? Do you have your hearts dull of understanding? Though having eyes, do you not see? And though having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000 men, how many baskets full of fragments you took up?" They said to him, 12. "When I broke the 7 for the 4,000 men, how many provision baskets full of fragments did you take up?" And they said to him, 7. With that he said to them, "Do you not yet get the meaning?" Now they put in at Bethsaida. Here people brought him a blind, and they entreated him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, brought him outside the village, and having spit upon his eyes, he laid his hands upon him and began to ask him, "Do you see anything?" And the man looked up and began saying, "I see men, because I observe what seem to be trees, but they are walking about." Then he laid his hands again upon the man's eyes, and the man saw clearly, and he was restored, and he was seeing everything distinctly. So he sent him off home, saying, "But do not enter into the village." Jesus and his disciples now left for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. And on the way he began questioning his disciples, saying to them, "Who are men saying that I am?" They said to him, "John the Baptist, and others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." And he put the question to them, "You though, who do you say I am?" In answer Peter said to him, "You are the Christ." At that he strictly charged them not to tell anyone about him. Also he started teaching them that the Son of Man must undergo many sufferings and be rejected by the older men and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and rise 3 days later. Indeed, with outspokenness he was making that statement. But Peter took him aside and started rebuking him. He turned, looked at his disciples, and rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, because you think not God's thoughts, but those of men." He now called the crowd to him with his disciples and said to them, "If anyone wants to come after me, let him disown himself and pick up his torture stake and follow me continually. For whoever wants to save his soul will lose it. But whoever loses his soul for the sake of me and the good news will save it. Really, of what benefit is it for a man to gain the whole world and to forfeit his soul? What really would a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever becomes ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he arrives in the glory of his Father with the holy angels."
Chapter 47. This is what proved to be the word of Jehovah to Jeremiah the prophet concerning the Philistines, Before Pharaoh proceeded to strike down Gaza, this is what Jehovah has said. Look, waters are coming up from the north, and have become a flooding torrent, and they will flood the land and what fills it, the city and those inhabiting it. And the men will certainly cry out, and everyone dwelling in the land must howl. At the sound of the stamping of the hoofs of his stallions, at the rattling of his war chariots, the turmoil of his wheels, the fathers will actually not turn around to the sons because of the dropping down of their hands, on account of the day that is coming to despoil all the Philistines, to cut off from Tyre and from Sidon every survivor that was helping. For Jehovah is despoiling the Philistines, who are the remaining ones from the island of Caphtor. Boldness must come to Gaza. Ashkelon has been put to silence. O remnant of their low plain, how long will you keep making cuts upon yourself? Aha, the sword of Jehovah. How long will you not stay quiet? Be shoved into your sheath. Take your repose and keep silent. How can it stay quiet when Jehovah himself has given a command to it? It is for Ashkelon and for the coast of the sea. There is where he has designated it to be. Chapter 26. For the divisions of gatekeepers of the Korahites, Meshelemiah the son of Korah of the sons of Asaph. And Meshelemiah had sons, Zechariah the firstborn, Jediael the second, Zebadiah the third, Jathniel the fourth, Elam the fifth, Jehohanan the sixth, Elihoenai the seventh. And Obed-Edom had sons, Shemaiah the firstborn, Jehozabad the second, Joah the third, and Sakar the fourth, and Nethanel the fifth, Amiel the sixth, Issachar the seventh, Peulethi the eighth, for God had blessed him. And to Shemaiah his son there were sons born that were rulers of the house of their father, for they were capable mighty men. The sons of Shemaiah, Othni, and Raphael, and Obed, Elzabad, whose brothers were capable men, Elihu, and Semachiah. All these were the sons of Obed-Edom, they and their sons and their brothers, capable men with the power for the service, 62 belonging to Obed-Edom. And Meshelemiah had sons and brothers, capable men, 18. And Hosa of the sons of Merari had sons. Shimri was the head, for he did not happen to be the firstborn, but his father appointed him as head. Hilkiah the second, Tabaliah the third, Zechariah the fourth. All the sons and brothers of Hosa were 13. Of these divisions of the gatekeepers, the head men had duties exactly as their brothers did, to minister at the house of Jehovah. So they cast lots for the small, the same as for the great, by their paternal houses, for the different gates. Then the lot to the east fell to Shelemiah. For Zechariah his son, a counselor with discretion, they cast the lots, and his lot got to come out to the north. Obed-Edom had his to the south, and his sons had the storehouses. Shuppim and Hosa had theirs to the west, close by the gate Sheleketh, by the highway that goes up, guard group corresponding with guard group. To the east there were 6 Levites, to the north for a day 4, to the south for a day 4, and for the stores 2 by 2. For the portico to the west, 4 at the highway, 2 at the portico. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers of the sons of the Korahites and of the sons of Merari. As regards the Levites, Ahijah was over the treasures of the house of the true God, and over the treasures of the things made holy. The sons of Ladan, the sons of the Gershonite belonging to Ladan, the heads of the paternal houses belonging to Ladan, the Gershonite, Jehieli. The sons of Jehieli, Zetham, and Joel his brother, were over the treasures of the house of Jehovah. For the Amramites, for the Izharites, for the Hebronites, for the Azielites, even Shebuel, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, was a leader over the stores. As regards his brothers, of Eliezer, there was Rehabiah his son, and Jeshiah his son, and Joram his son, and Zichri his son, and Shelomoth his son. This Shelomoth and his brothers were over all the treasures of the things made holy, that David the king and the heads of the paternal houses, and the chiefs of the thousands and of the hundreds, and the chiefs of the army had made holy. From the wars and from the spoil they had made things holy to maintain the house of Jehovah. And also all that Samuel the seer, and Saul the son of Kish, and Abner the son of Ner, and Joab the son of Zeruiah had made holy. What anyone made holy was under the control of Shelomith and his brothers. Of the Izharites, Cananiah and his sons were for the outside business as officers and as judges over Israel. Of the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his brothers, capable men, 1,700 were over the administration of Israel in the region of the Jordan to the west, for all the work of Jehovah and for the king's service. Of the Hebronites, Jerijah was the head of the Hebronites by its generations by forefathers. In the 40th year of David's kingship, they were sought out, and valiant, mighty men came to be found among them in Jazer in Gilead. And his brothers, capable men, were 2,700, heads of the paternal houses. So David the king assigned them over the Reubenites and the Gadites, and the half-tribe of the Manassites, for every matter of the true God and matter of the king. Chapter 29. Hezekiah himself became king at the age of 25 years, and for 29 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah. And he doing what was right in Jehovah's eyes, according to all that David his forefather had done. He himself, in the first year of his reigning, in the first month, opened the doors of the house of Jehovah and began to repair them. Then he brought the priests and the Levites and gathered them to the open place to the east. And he proceeded to say to them, Listen to me, you Levites. Now sanctify yourselves and sanctify the house of Jehovah the God of your forefathers, and bring the impure thing out from the holy place. For our fathers have acted unfaithfully, and have done what was bad in the eyes of Jehovah our God, so that they left him, and turned around their face away from the tabernacle of Jehovah, and offered the back of the neck. They also closed the doors of the porch, kept the lamps extinguished, and incense they did not burn, and burnt sacrifice they did not offer up in the holy place to the God of Israel. And Jehovah's indignation came to be against Judah and Jerusalem, so that he constituted them an object at which to quake, an object of astonishment, and a cause for whistling, just as you are seeing with your own eyes. And here our forefathers fell by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives were in captivity for this. Now it is close to my heart to conclude a covenant with Jehovah the God of Israel, that his burning anger may turn back from us. My sons, do not give yourselves up to rest, for you are the ones whom Jehovah has chosen to stand before him, to minister to him, and to continue as his ministers and makers of sacrificial smoke. At that the Levites rose up, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and from the sons of Merari, Kish, the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehalalel, and from the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah, and from the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri, and Jeuel, and from the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah, and from the sons of Heman, Jehiel, and Shimei, and from the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah, and Uzziel. Then they gathered their brothers together and sanctified themselves, and came according to the king's commandment in the words of Jehovah, to cleanse the house of Jehovah. The priests now came inside the house of Jehovah to do the cleansing, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of Jehovah to the courtyard of the house of Jehovah. In turn, the Levites received it to take it out to the torrent Kidron outside. Thus they got started on the first day of the first month at sanctifying, and on the 8th day of the month they came to the porch of Jehovah, so that they sanctified the house of Jehovah in 8 days, and on the 16th day of the first month they finished. After that they came inside to Hezekiah the king and said, "We have cleansed the whole house of Jehovah, the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils, and the table of the layer bread and all its utensils. And all the utensils that King Ahaz removed from employment during his reign in his unfaithfulness we have prepared, and have sanctified them, and there they are before the altar of Jehovah." And Hezekiah the king proceeded to get up early, and gather the princes of the city together, and go up to the house of Jehovah. And they came bringing 7 bulls and 7 rams and 7 male lambs, and 7 male goats as a sin offering for the kingdom and for the sanctuary and for Judah. So he said to the sons of Aaron the priests to offer them up upon the altar of Jehovah. Accordingly they slaughtered the cattle, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it upon the altar. After which they slaughtered the rams and sprinkled the blood upon the altar. And they slaughtered the male lambs and sprinkled the blood upon the altar. Then they brought the male goats of the sin offering near before the king and the congregation, and laid their hands upon them. The priests now slaughtered them, and made a sin offering with their blood upon the altar, to make atonement for all Israel, because it was for all Israel that the king said the burnt offering and the sin offering should be. Meantime, he had the Levites stationed at the house of Jehovah with cymbals, with stringed instruments, and with harps, by the commandment of David and of Gad, king's visionary, and of Nathan the prophet, for it was by the hand of Jehovah that the commandment was by means of his prophets. So the Levites kept standing the instruments of David, and also the priests with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah said to offer up the burnt sacrifice on the altar. And at the time that the burnt offering started, the song of Jehovah started, and also the trumpets, even under the direction of the instruments of David, the king of Israel. And all the congregation were bowing down while the song was resounding, and the trumpets were blaring, all this until the burnt offering was finished. And as soon as they finished offering it up, the king and all those found with him bowed low and prostrated themselves. Hezekiah the king and the prince now said to the Levites to praise Jehovah in the words of David and of Asaph the visionary. So they began to offer praise even with rejoicing, and they kept bending down and prostrating themselves. Finally Hezekiah answered and said, "Now you have filled your hand with power for Jehovah. Approach, and bring sacrifices and thanksgiving sacrifices to the house of Jehovah." And the congregation began to bring sacrifices and thanksgiving sacrifices, and also everyone willing of heart burnt offerings. And the number of the burnt offerings that the congregation brought came to be 70 cattle, 100 rams, 200 male lambs, all these as a burnt offering to Jehovah. And also the holy offerings, 600 cattle and 3,000 of the flock. Only the priests themselves happened to be too few, and they were not able to skin all the burnt offerings. So their brothers the Levites helped them out until the work was finished, and until the priests could sanctify themselves, for the Levites were more upright of heart for sanctifying themselves than the priests. And 2, the burnt offerings were in great quantity with the fat pieces of the communion sacrifices and with the drink offerings for the burnt offerings. Thus the service of the house of Jehovah was prepared. Consequently Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced over the fact that the true God had made preparation for the people, because it was all of a sudden that the thing had occurred.
The second of Kings, or according to the Greek Septuagint, the fourth of Kings. Chapter 1. And Moab began to revolt against Israel after the death of Ahab. Then Ahaziah fell down through the grating in his roof chamber that was in Samaria and got sick. So he sent messengers and said to them, "Go, inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall revive from this sickness." As for the angel of Jehovah, he spoke to Elijah the Tishbite, "Rise up, go up to meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say to them, Is it because there is no God at all in Israel that you are going to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron? So therefore this is what Jehovah has said. As regards the couch upon which you have gone up, you will not come down off it, because you will positively die." With that Elijah went off. When the messengers came back to him, he immediately said to them, "Why is it that you have come back?" So they said to him, "There was a man that came up to meet us, and he proceeded to say to us, 'Go, return to the king who sent you, and you must speak to him. This is what Jehovah has said. Is it because there is no God at all in Israel that you are sending to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore, as regards the couch upon which you have gone up, you will not come down off it, because you will positively die.'" At this he spoke to them, "What was the appearance of the man that came up to meet you and then spoke these words to you?" So they said to him, "A man possessing a hair garment with a leather belt girded about his loins." Immediately he said, "It was Elijah the Tishbite." And he proceeded to send to him a chief of 50 with his 50. When he went up to him, there he was sitting upon the top of the mountain. He now spoke to him, "Man of the true God, the king himself has spoken. Do come down." But Elijah answered and spoke to the chief of the 50. "Well, if I am a man of God, let fire come down from the heavens and eat up you and your 50. And fire came descending from the heavens and went eating up him and his 50. So he sent again to him another chief of 50 with his 50. In turn he answered and spoke to him, "Man of the true God, this is what the king has said. Do come down quickly." But Elijah answered and spoke to them, "If I am a man of the true God, let fire come down from the heavens and eat up you and your 50. And fire of God came descending from the heavens and went eating up him and his 50. And he went sending again a third chief of 50 and his 50. But the third chief of 50 went up and came and bent down upon his knees in front of Elijah and began to implore favor of him and speak to him, "Man of the God, please let my soul and the soul of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your eyes." Here fire came down from the heavens and went eating up the two former chiefs of 50 and their 50s. But now let my soul be precious in your eyes. And the angel of Jehovah spoke to Elijah, "Go down with him. Do not be afraid because of him." So he rose and went down with him to the king. Then he spoke to him, "This is what Jehovah has said. For the reason that you have sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, is it because there is no God at all in Israel of whose word to inquire? Therefore, as regards the couch upon which you have gone up, you will not come down off it, because you will positively die." And he gradually died, according to the word of Jehovah that Elijah had spoken. And Jehoram began to reign in place of him, in the 2nd year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, because he had not come to have a son. As for the rest of Ahaziah's things that he did, are they not written in the book of the affairs of the days of the kings of Israel?
Chapter 4. As for Boaz, he went up to the gate and began to sit there. And look, the repurchaser was passing by whom Boaz had mentioned. And he said, "Do turn aside. Do sit down here, so-and-so." Hence he turned aside and sat down. After that, he took 10 men of the older men of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. He now said to the repurchaser, "The tract of the field that belonged to our brother Elimelech, Naomi, who has returned from the field of Moab, must sell. As for me, I thought that I should disclose it to you, saying, 'Buy it in front of the inhabitants and the older men of my people.' If you will repurchase it, repurchase it. But if you will not repurchase it, do tell me, that I may know, for there is no one else but you to do the repurchasing, and I am next to you." At that he said, I shall be the one to repurchase it. Then Boaz said, On the day that you buy the field from Naomi's hand, it is also from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead man, that you must buy it, so as to cause the name of the dead man to rise upon his inheritance. To this the repurchaser said, I am unable to repurchase it for myself, for fear I may ruin my own inheritance. You repurchase it for yourself with my right of repurchase, because I am not able to do the repurchasing. Now this was the custom of former times in Israel concerning the right of repurchase, and concerning the exchange to establish every sort of thing. A man had to draw his sandal off and give it to his fellow, and this was the attestation in Israel. So when the repurchaser said to Boaz, Buy it for yourself, he proceeded to draw his sandal off. Then Boaz said to the older men and all the people, You are witnesses today that I do buy all that belonged to Elimelech, and all that belonged to Kilian and Mahlon from the hand of Naomi. And also Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, I do buy for myself as a wife, to cause the name of the dead man to rise upon his inheritance, and that the name of the dead man may not be cut off from among his brothers and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today. At this, all the people that were in the gate and the older men said, Witnesses, may Jehovah grant the wife who is coming into your house to be like Rachel and like Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel, and you prove your worth in Ephrathah, and make a notable name in Bethlehem. And may your house become like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah from the offspring that Jehovah will give you out of this young woman. Accordingly, Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he had relations with her. So Jehovah granted her conception, and she bore a son. And the women began to say to Naomi, Blessed be Jehovah, who has not let a repurchaser fail for you today, that his name may be proclaimed in Israel. And he has become a restorer of your soul, and one to nourish your old age, because your daughter-in-law who does love you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. And Naomi proceeded to take the child and to put it in her bosom, and she came to be its nurse. Then the neighbor ladies gave it a name, saying, A son has been born to Naomi. And they began to call his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, David's father. Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez became father to Hezron, and Hezron became father to Ram, and Ram became father to Amminadab, and Amminadab became father to Nahshon, and Nahshon became father to Salmon, and Salmon became father to Boaz, and Boaz became father to Obed, and Obed became father to Jesse, and Jesse became father to David. Chapter 20. Consequently, all the sons of Israel went out, and the assembly congregated themselves as one man, from Dan down to Beersheba, along with the land of Gilead, to Jehovah at Mizpah. So the key men of Israel, sons of Israel,
Benjamin that I came, I and my concubine, to stay overnight. And the landowners of Gibeah proceeded to rise up against me, and to surround the house against me by night. It was I that they figured on killing, but it was my concubine that they raped, and she gradually died. Hence I grasped my concubine and cut her up, and sent her into every field of Israel's inheritance, because they had carried on loose conduct and disgraceful folly in Israel. Look, all you sons of Israel, give your word and counsel here.
So all the people rose up as one man, saying, "We shall not go any of us to his tent, nor shall we turn aside any of us to his house. And now this is the thing that we shall do to Gibeah. Let us go up by lot against it. And we must take 10 men out of 100 of all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to procure provisions for the people, that they may take action by going against Gibeah of Benjamin, in view of all the disgraceful folly that they did in Israel." Thus all the men of Israel were gathered against the city as one man, as allies. Accordingly, the tribes of Israel sent men to all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, "What is this bad thing that has been brought about among you? And now give over the men, the good-for-nothing men that are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death. Let us clear out what is bad from Israel." And the sons of Benjamin did not want to listen to the voice of their brothers, the sons of Israel. Then the sons of Benjamin went gathering together out of the cities to Gibeah, to go out to battle against the sons of Israel. So the sons of Benjamin got to be mustered on that day from the cities, 26,000 men drawing sword, apart from the inhabitants of Gibeah, of whom 700 chosen men were mustered. Out of all this people there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Every one of these was a slinger of stones to a hairbreadth, and would not miss. And the men of Israel were mustered apart from Benjamin, 400,000 men drawing sword. Every one of these was a man of war. And they proceeded to rise up and go on up to Bethel, and to inquire of God. Then the sons of Israel said, "Who of us should go up in the lead to the battle against the sons of Benjamin?" To this Jehovah said, "Judah in the lead." After that, the sons of Israel rose up in the morning, and camped against Gibeah. The men of Israel now went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel proceeded to draw up in battle formation against them at Gibeah. So the sons of Benjamin came on out from Gibeah, and brought 22,000 men in Israel down to ruin to the earth on that day. However, the people, the men of Israel, showed themselves courageous, and again went drawing up in battle formation in the place where they had drawn up in formation on the first day. Then the sons of Israel went up and wept before Jehovah until the evening, and inquired of Jehovah, saying, "Shall I again approach for battle against the sons of Benjamin my brother?" To this Jehovah said, "Go up against him." Accordingly the sons of Israel drew near to the sons of Benjamin on the second day. In turn Benjamin came on out from Gibeah to meet them on the second day, and brought a further 18,000 men among the sons of Israel down to ruin to the earth, all of these drawing sword. At that all the sons of Israel, even all the people, went on up, and came to Bethel, and wept, and sat there before Jehovah, and fasted on that day until the evening, and offered up burnt offerings and communion offerings before Jehovah. After that, the sons of Israel inquired of Jehovah, as it was there that the ark of the covenant of the true God was in those days. Now Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, was standing before it in those days, saying, "Shall I go out yet again to battle against the sons of Benjamin my brother, or shall I cease to?" To this Jehovah said, "Go up, because tomorrow I shall give him into your hand." Then Israel set men in ambush against Gibeah all around. And the sons of Israel proceeded to go up against the sons of Benjamin on the third day, and to draw up in formation against Gibeah the same as at the other times. When the sons of Benjamin went on out to meet the people, they were drawn away from the city. Then, the same as at the other times, they started to strike down some of the people mortally wounded on the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, in the field, about 30 men in Israel. So the sons of Benjamin began to say, "They are suffering defeat before us the same as at the first." As for the sons of Israel, they said, "Let us flee, and we shall certainly draw them away from the city onto the highways." And all the men of Israel rose up from their places, and went drawing up in formation at Baal Tamar, while those of Israel in ambush were making a charge out of their places in the vicinity of Gibeah. Thus 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel came in front of Gibeah, and the fighting was heavy. And the Benjamites did not know that calamity was impending over them. And Jehovah proceeded to defeat Benjamin before Israel, so that the sons of Israel on that day brought down to ruin in Benjamin 25,100 men, all of these drawing sword. However, the sons of Benjamin imagined that the men of Israel faced defeat when they kept giving ground to Benjamin, because they trusted in the ambush that they had set against Gibeah. As for the ambush, they acted quickly and went dashing toward Gibeah. Then the ambush spread out and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the men of Israel had come to the arrangement with the ambush for them to make a smoke signal go up from the city. When the sons of Israel turned around in the battle, Benjamin started to strike down about 30 men mortally wounded among the men of Israel. They said, "They are unquestionably suffering nothing but defeat before us, just as in the first battle." And the signal started to go up from the city as a pillar of smoke. So when Benjamin turned his face back, look, the whole city went up heavenward. And the men of Israel made an about face. And the men of Benjamin were disturbed, for they saw that calamity had reached them. Hence they turned before the men of Israel in the direction of the wilderness, and the battle followed them up closely, while the men from out of the cities were bringing them down to ruin in their midst. They surrounded Benjamin. They pursued him without a place to rest. They trampled him down directly in front of Gibeah toward the rising of the sun. Finally, there fell 18,000 men of Benjamin, all of these being valiant men. Thus they turned and went fleeing to the wilderness to the crag of Rimmon. And they made a gleaning of 5,000 men of them on the highways, and they kept following closely after them as far as Gidom, and so struck down 2,000 more men of them. And all those of Benjamin that fell on that day amounted at last to 25,000 men drawing sword, all these being valiant men. But 600 men turned and went fleeing to the wilderness, to the crag of Rimmon, and they continued to dwell on the crag of Rimmon 4 months. And the men of Israel came back against the sons of Benjamin, and went striking with the edge of the sword those of the city, from men to domestic animal, up to all that were found. Also, all the cities that were found they consigned to the fire.
Chapter 13. Jehovah now spoke to Moses, saying, "Send out for yourself men, that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the sons of Israel. You will send out one man for each tribe of his fathers, each one a chieftain among them." So Moses sent them out from the wilderness of Paran at the order of Jehovah. All the men were heads of the sons of Israel. And these are their names. Of the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, the son of Zachar. Of the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, the son of Hori. Of the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. Of the tribe of Issachar, Igal, the son of Joseph. Of the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Nun. Of the tribe of Benjamin, Paltai, the son of Raphu. Of the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, the son of Sodai. Of the tribe of Joseph, for the tribe of Manasseh, Gadai, the son of Susai. Of the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Gamolai. Of the tribe of Asher, Sethur, the son of Michael. Of the tribe of Naphtali, Nabai, the son of Opsai. Of the tribe of Gad, Guel, the son of Machi. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses continued to call Hoshea, the son of Nun, Jehoshua. When Moses was sending them to spy out the land of Canaan, he proceeded to say to them, "Go up here into the Negeb, and you must go up into the mountainous region. And you must see what the land is, and the people who are dwelling on it, whether they are strong or weak, whether they are few or many, and what the land is in which they are dwelling, whether it is good or bad, and what the cities are in which they are dwelling, whether it is in encampments or in fortifications, and what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there are trees in it or not. And you must show yourselves courageous and take some of the fruitage of the land. Now the days were the days of the first ripe fruits of the grapes. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, to the entering in of Hamath. When they went up into the Negeb, they then came to Hebron. Now Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, those born of Anak, were there. Incidentally, Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan of Egypt. When they came to the torrent valley of Eshcol, they then proceeded to cut down from there a shoot with one cluster of grapes. And they went carrying it with a bar on 2 of the men, and also some of the pomegranates and some of the figs. They called that place the torrent valley of Eshcol, on account of the cluster that the sons of Israel cut down from there. Finally, at the end of 40 days, they returned from spying out the land. So they walked and came to Moses and Aaron and all the assembly of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they came bringing back word to them and all the assembly, and showing them the fruitage of the land. And they went on to report to him and say, We entered into the land to which you sent us out, and it is indeed flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruitage. Nevertheless, the facts are that the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the fortified cities are very great. And 2, those born of Anak we saw there. The Amalekites are dwelling in the land of the Negeb, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites are dwelling in the mountainous region, and the Canaanites are dwelling by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. Then Caleb tried to still the people toward Moses, and went on to say, Let us go up directly, and we are bound to take possession of it, because we can surely prevail over it. But the men who went up with him said, We are not able to go up against the people, because they are stronger than we are. And they kept on bringing forth to the sons of Israel a bad report of the land that they had spied out, saying, The land which we passed through to spy it out is a land that eats up its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in the midst of it are men of extraordinary size. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who are from the Nephilim, so that we became in our own eyes like grasshoppers, and the same way we became in their eyes. Chapter 7. And it came about that when the king dwelt in his own house, and Jehovah himself had given him rest from all his enemies round about, then the king said to Nathan the prophet, See now, I am dwelling in a house of cedars, while the ark of the true God is dwelling in the middle of tent cloths. Upon that Nathan said to the king, Everything that is in your heart, go do, because Jehovah is with you. And it came about on that night that the word of Jehovah came to Nathan, saying, Go, and you must say to my servant David, This is what Jehovah has said. Should you yourself build me a house for me to dwell in? For I have not dwelt in a house from the day of my bringing the sons of Israel up out of Egypt to this day, but I was continually walking about in a tent and in a tabernacle. During all the time that I have walked about among all the sons of Israel, was there a word that I spoke with one of the tribes of Israel that I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, saying, Why did you people not build me a house of cedars? And now this is what you will say to my servant David. This is what Jehovah of armies has said. I myself took you from the pasture ground, from following the flock, to become a leader over my people Israel. And I shall prove to be with you wherever you do go, and I will cut off all your enemies from before you, and I shall certainly make for you a great name, like the name of the great ones that are in the earth. And I shall certainly appoint a place for my people Israel, and plant them, and they will indeed reside where they are, and no more will they be disturbed. And the sons of unrighteousness will not afflict them again as they did at the first. even from the day that I put judges in command over my people Israel. And I will give you rest from all your enemies. And Jehovah has told you that a house is what Jehovah will make for you. When your days come to the full, and you must lie down with your forefathers, then I shall certainly raise up your seed after you, which will come out of your inward parts, and I shall indeed firmly establish his kingdom. He is the one that will build a house for my name, and I shall certainly establish the throne of his kingdom firmly to time indefinite. I myself shall become his father, and he himself will become my son. When he does wrong, I will also reprove him with the rod of men and with the strokes of the sons of Adam. As for my loving kindness, it will not depart from him the way I removed it from Saul, whom I removed on account of you. And your house and your kingdom will certainly be steadfast to time indefinite before you. Your very throne will become one firmly established to time indefinite. According to all these words and according to all this vision was the way that Nathan spoke to David. At that King David came in and sat down before Jehovah and said, Who am I, O sovereign Lord Jehovah? What is my house that you have brought me thus far? As though this should even be something little in your eyes, O sovereign Lord Jehovah. Yet you also speak respecting the house of your servant to a distant future time. And this is the law given for mankind, O sovereign Lord Jehovah. And what more can David add and speak to you, when you yourself know your servant well, O sovereign Lord Jehovah? For the sake of your word, and in agreement with your own heart, you have done all these great things to cause your servant to know them. That is why you be great, O sovereign Lord Jehovah. For there is no other like you, and there is no God except you, among all of whom we have heard with our ears. And one nation in the earth is like your people Israel, whom God went to redeem to himself as a people, and to assign himself a name, and to do for them great and fear-inspiring things, to drive out because of your people, whom you have redeemed to yourself from Egypt, the nations and their gods. And you proceeded to establish your people Israel firmly for yourself, as your people to time indefinite. And you yourself, O Jehovah, have become their God. And now, Jehovah God, the word that you have spoken concerning your servant, and concerning his house, carry out to time indefinite, and do just as you have spoken. And let your own name become great to time indefinite, saying, Jehovah of armies is God over Israel. And let the very house of your servant David be firmly established before you. For you, Jehovah of armies, the God of Israel, have made a revelation to your servant's ear, saying, A house I shall build for you. That is why your servant has taken heart to pray to you with this prayer. And now, O sovereign Lord Jehovah, you are the true God. And as for your words, let them prove to be truth, since you promised to your servant this goodness. And now take it upon yourself and bless the house of your servant, for it to continue to time indefinite before you. For you yourself, O sovereign Lord Jehovah, have promised. And do to your blessing that the house of your servant be blessed to time indefinite. The first of Kings, or according to the Greek Septuagint, the third of Kings. Chapter 1. Now King David was old, advanced in days, and they would cover him with garments, but he would not feel warm. So his servants said to him, Let them look for a girl, a virgin from my lord the king, and she will have to attend upon the king, that she may become his nurse, and she must lie in your bosom, and my lord the king will certainly feel warm. And they went looking for a beautiful girl throughout all nurse, and kept waiting upon him, and the king himself had no intercourse with her. All the while, Adonijah the son of Haggith was lifting himself up, saying, I myself am going to rule as king. And he proceeded to have a chariot made for himself, with horsemen, and 50 men running before him. And his father did not hurt his feelings at any time by saying, "Why is this the way you have done?" And he was also very good-looking in form, and his mother had borne him after Absalom. And he came to have dealings with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest, and they began offering help as followers of Adonijah. As for Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei, and Rei, and the mighty men that belonged to David, they did not become involved with Adonijah. Eventually Adonijah held a sacrifice of sheep and cattle and fatlings close by the stone of Zoeleth, which is beside Enrogel, and he proceeded to invite all his brothers, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. And Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, and the mighty men, and Solomon his brother he did not invite. Nathan now said to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, "Have you not heard that Adonijah the son of Haggith has become king, and our Lord David does not know of it at all? So now come, let me please solemnly counsel you, and provide escape for your own soul, and for the soul of your son Solomon. Go and enter into King David, and you must say to him, 'Was it not you, my lord the king, that swore to your slave girl, saying, Solomon your son is the one that will become king after me, and he is the one that will sit upon my throne? So why has Adonijah become king? Look, while you are yet speaking there with the king, then I myself shall come in after you, and I shall certainly confirm your words.'" Accordingly, Bathsheba went into the king in the interior room, and the king was very old, and Abishag the Shunammite was waiting upon the king. Then Bathsheba bowed low and prostrated herself to the king, upon which the king said, "What do you have to ask?" At this she said to him, "My lord, it was you that swore by Jehovah your God, your slave girl, Solomon your son is the one that will become king after me, and he is the one that will sit upon my throne. And now look, Adonijah himself has become king, and now my lord the king himself does not know of it at all. So he sacrificed bulls and fatlings and sheep in great quantity, and invited all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the chief of the army. But Solomon your servant he has knowingly occur."
Certainly become offenders. And look, while she was yet speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet himself came in. At once they told the king, saying, "Here is Nathan the prophet." After that he came in before the king and prostrated himself to the king with his face to the earth. Then Nathan said, "My lord the king, did you yourself say, Adonijah is the one that will become king after me, and he is the one that will sit upon my throne? For he has today gone down that he might sacrifice bulls and fatlings and sheep in great quantity, and might invite all the sons of the king, and the chiefs of the army, and Abiathar the priest. And there they are eating and drinking before him, and they keep saying, 'Let King Adonijah live.' But as for me, your servant, me and Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and Solomon your servant, he has not invited. If it is from my lord the king that this thing has been brought about, then you have not caused your servant to know who should sit upon the throne of my lord the king after him." King David now answered and said, "You men, call Bathsheba for me." At that she came in before the king and stood before the king. And the king proceeded to swear and say,
As Jehovah is living, who redeemed my soul out of all distress, just as I have sworn to you by Jehovah the God of Israel, saying, Solomon your son is the one that will become king after me, and he is the one that will sit upon my throne in place of me. That is the way I shall do this day. Then Bathsheba bowed low with her face to the earth, and prostrated herself to the king, and said, Let my lord King David live to time indefinite. Immediately King David said, You men, call for me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada. So they came in before the king. And the king went on to say to them, Take with you the servants of your lord, and you must make Solomon my son ride upon the she-mule that belongs to me, and lead him down to Gihon. And Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet must anoint him there as king over Israel. And you must blow the horn and say, Let King Solomon live. And you must come up following him, and he must come in and sit upon my throne, and he himself will be king in place of me, and him I shall have to commission to become leader over Israel and over Judah. At once Benaiah the son of Jehoiada answered the king and said, Amen. Thus may Jehovah the God of my lord the king say, Just as Jehovah proved to be with my lord the king, so let him prove to be with Solomon, and may he make his throne greater than the throne of my lord King David. And Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites proceeded to go down and make Solomon ride upon the she-mule of King David, and then brought him to Gihon. Zadok the priest now took the horn of oil out of the tent, and anointed Solomon. And they began to blow the horn, and all the people broke out, saying, Let King Solomon live. After that all the people came on up following him, and the people were playing on flutes and rejoicing with great joy, so that the earth was split by the noise of them. And Adonijah and all the ones invited that were with him got to hear it, when they themselves had finished eating. When Joab got to hear the sound of the horn, he at once said, What does the noise of the town in an uproar mean? While he was yet speaking, why, here Jonathan the son of Abiathar the priest came. Then Adonijah said, Come on in, for you are a valiant man, and you bring good news. But Jonathan answered and said to Adonijah, No, our Lord King David himself has made Solomon king. So the king sent with him Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and they made him ride upon the she-mule of the king. Then Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anointed him as king in Gihon, after which they came up from there rejoicing, and the town is in an uproar. That was the noise that you men heard. And besides, Solomon has sat down upon the throne of the kingship. And another thing, the servants of the king come in to wish our Lord King David well, saying, May your God make Solomon's name more splendid than your name, and may he make his throne greater than your throne. At that the king bowed down upon the bed. And too, this is what the king said, Blessed be Jehovah the God of Israel, who has today given one to sit upon my throne, with my own eyes seeing it. And all those invited that were with Adonijah began to tremble and rise up and go each one on his own way. And Adonijah himself was afraid because of Solomon. So he rose up and went away and grabbed hold of the horns of the altar. In time the report was made to Solomon, saying, Here Adonijah himself has become afraid of King Solomon, and here he has taken hold on the horns of the altar, saying, Let King Solomon first of all swear to me that he will not put his servant to death by the sword. To this Solomon said, If he will become a valiant man, there will not fall a single hair of his to the earth. But if what is bad should be found in him, he will also have to die." So King Solomon sent, and they brought him down from off the altar. Then he came in and bowed down to King Solomon, after which Solomon said to him, "Go to your own house." Chapter 23. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Build for me on this spot 7 altars, and make ready for me on this spot 7 bulls and 7 rams." Balak immediately did just as Balaam had spoken. After that, Balak and Balaam offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. And Balaam went on to say to Balak, "Station yourself by your burnt offering, and let me go. Perhaps Jehovah will get in touch and meet with me. In that case, whatever he will show me, I shall certainly tell you." So he went to a bare hill. When God got in touch with Balaam, he then said to him, "I set the 7 altars in rows, and I proceeded to offer up a bull and a ram on each altar." Accordingly, Jehovah put a word in the mouth of Balaam and said, "Read to Balak, and this is what you will speak." So he returned to him, and look, he and all the princes of Moab were stationed by his burnt offering. Then he took up his proverbial utterance and said, "From Aram, Balak the king of Moab tried to conduct me from the mountains of the east. Do come, do curse Jacob for me. Yes, do come, do denounce Israel. How could I execrate those whom God has not execrated? And how could I denounce those whom Jehovah has not denounced? For from the top of the rocks I see them, and from the hills I behold them. There as a people they keep tabernacling isolated, and among the nations they do not reckon themselves. Who has numbered the dust particles of Jacob, and who has counted the fort of Israel? Let my soul die the death of the upright ones, and let my end turn out afterward like theirs." At this Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? in order to execrate my enemies that I took you, and here you have blessed them to the limit." In turn he answered and said, "Is it not whatever Jehovah may put in my mouth that I should take care to speak?" Then Balak said to him, "Do come, please, with me to another place from which you can see them. Only the extremity of them you will see, and you will not see all of them, and execrate them for me from there." So he took him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and proceeded to build 7 altars and to offer up a bull and a ram on each altar. After that he said to Balak, "Station yourself here by your burnt offering, and as for me, let me get in touch with him there." Subsequently, Jehovah got in touch with Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, "Return to Balak, and this is what you will speak." So he came to him, and look, he was stationed by his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. Then Balak said to him, "What has Jehovah spoken?" At this he took up his proverbial utterance and said, "Get up, Balak, and listen. Do give ear to me, O son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should tell lies, neither a son of mankind that he should feel regret. Has he himself said it, and will he not do it? And has he spoken, and will he not carry it out? Look, I have been taken to bless, and he has blessed, and I shall not reverse it. He has not looked upon any uncanny power against Jacob, and no trouble has he seen against Israel. Jehovah his God is with him, and the loud hailing of a king is in his midst. God is bringing them out of Egypt. The swift course like that of a wild bull is his. For there is no unlucky spell against Jacob, nor any divination against Israel. At this time it may be said respecting Jacob and Israel, what has God worked out? Behold, a people will get up like a lion, and like the lion it will lift itself up. It will not lie down until it may eat prey, and the blood of slain ones it will drink. At this Balak said to Balaam, "If, on the one hand, you cannot execrate him at all, then on the other hand, you should not bless him at all." In turn Balaam answered and said to Balak, "Did I not speak to you, saying, all that Jehovah will speak is what I shall do?" Then Balak said to Balaam, "Oh, come, please, let me take you to still another place. Perhaps it will be right in the eyes of the true God, so that you will certainly execrate him for me from there." With that Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, which looks toward Jeshimon. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Build for me on this spot 7 altars, and make ready for me on this spot 7 bulls and 7 rams." So Balak did just as Balaam had said, and he went offering up a bull and a ram on each altar. Chapter 11. Now the people became as men having something evil to complain about in the ears of Jehovah. When Jehovah got to hear it, then his anger grew hot, and a fire of Jehovah began to blaze against them, and to consume some in the extremity of the camp. When the people began to cry out to Moses, then he made supplication to Jehovah, and the fire sank down. And the name of that place got to be called Taberah, because a fire of Jehovah had blazed against them. And the mixed crowd that was in the midst of them expressed selfish longing, and the sons of Israel too began to weep again and say, "Who will give us meat to eat? How we remember the fish that we used to eat in Egypt for nothing, the cucumbers and the watermelons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dry away. Our eyes are on nothing at all except the manna." Incidentally, the manna was like coriander seed, and its look was like the look of bdellium gum. The people spread out and picked it up and ground it in hand mills, or pounded it in a mortar, and boiled it in cooking pots, or made it into round cakes, and its taste proved to be like the taste of an oiled sweet cake. And when the dew descended upon the camp by night, the manna would descend upon it. And Moses got to hear the people weeping in their families, each man at the entrance of his tent. And Jehovah's anger began growing very hot, and in the eyes of Moses it was bad. Then Moses said to Jehovah, "Why have you caused evil to your servant? And why have I not found favor in your eyes in placing the load of all this people upon me? Have I myself conceived all this people? Is it I who have given them birth, so that you should say to me, 'Carry them in your bosom, just as the male nurse carries the suckling, to the soil about which you swore to their forefathers? From where do I have meat to give to all this people?' Keep weeping toward me, saying, 'Do give us meat, and let us eat.' I am not able, I by myself, to carry all this people, because they are too heavy for me. So if this is the way you are doing to me, please kill me off altogether, if I have found favor in your eyes, and not look upon a calamity." In turn, Jehovah said to Moses, "Gather for me 70 men of the older men of Israel, whom you do know that they are older men of the people and officers of theirs, and you must take them to the tent of meeting, and they must station themselves there with you. And I shall have to come down and speak with you there, and I shall have to take away some of the spirit that is upon you and place it upon them, and they will have to help you in carrying the load of the people, that you may not carry it, just you alone. And to the people you should say, 'Sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, as you will certainly eat meat, because you have wept in the ears of Jehovah, saying, Who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt.' And Jehovah will certainly give you meat, and you will indeed eat. You will eat not 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but up to a month of days, until it comes out of your nostrils, and it has become a loathing to you, just because you rejected Jehovah, who is in your midst, and you went weeping before him, saying, 'Why is it that we have come out of Egypt?' Then Moses said, 'The people in the midst of whom I am are 600,000 men on foot, and yet you have said, Meat I shall give them, and they will certainly eat for a month of days. Will flocks and herds be slaughtered for them, for it to be adequate for them? Or will all the fish of the sea be caught for them, for it to be adequate for them?' At this Jehovah said to Moses, 'The hand of Jehovah is cut short, is it? Now you will see whether what I say befalls you or not.' After that Moses went out and spoke to the people the words of Jehovah. And he went gathering 70 men from the older men of the people, and proceeded to have them stand round about the tent. Then Jehovah came down in a cloud, and spoke to him, and took away some of the spirit that was upon him, and put it upon each of the 70 older men. And it came about that as soon as the Spirit settled down upon them, then they proceeded to act as prophets, but they did not do it again. Now there were 2 of the men remaining in the camp. The name of the one was Eldad, and the name of the other was Medad. And the Spirit began to settle down upon them, as they were among those written down, but they had not gone out to the tent. So they proceeded to act as prophets in the camp. And a young man went running and reporting to Moses and saying, "Eldad and Medad are acting as prophets in the camp." Then Joshua, the son of Nun, the minister of Moses from his young manhood on, responded and said, "My lord Moses, restrain them." However, Moses said to him, "Are you feeling jealous for me? No, I wish that all of Jehovah's people were prophets, because Jehovah would put his spirit upon them." Later Moses withdrew to the camp, he and the older men of Israel. And a wind burst forth from Jehovah, and began driving quails from the sea, and letting them fall above the camp about a day's journey this way, and about a day's journey that way, all around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the earth. Then the people got up all that day and all night and all the next day, and kept gathering the quail. The one collecting least gathered 10 homers, and they kept spreading them extensively all around the camp for themselves. The meat was yet between their teeth before it could be chewed, when Jehovah's anger blazed against the people, and Jehovah began striking at the people with a very great slaughter. The name of that place came to be called Kibroth-Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who showed selfish craving. From Kibroth-Hattaavah, the people pulled away for Hazerah, and they continued in Hazerah. Chapter 14. The truly wise woman has built up her house.